So I'm going to give you a tour of what I think are all the exciting features. There's a ton, and I'm gonna focus on a chunk of them that I think are kind of the most exciting. But I'm also going to give you some stuff and some ways to catch up to date on all the features as easy as possible without rummaging through all the documentation. So we're on the evening right now of a wave of a lot of features coming. If you look in April, there's a lot of stuff coming in April, which is awesome. So what I did is I went through all the release notes really in depth, a little bit obsessively, and I parsed them all, and I tried to kind of intuit what they all are in relation to each other and also in relation to conversations I've had with different people outside of Microsoft and inside of Microsoft. So this presentation, if you want to grab it, is over here. And excuse me for a second. Let me restart this. Looks like it's frozen.
So it's not just a picture that's frozen; it's the actual machine.
No, it was just that slide for some reason.
If you have a picture of Hawaii, it might not be frozen.
All right, so this is, if you want to take a picture with your phone right now, or not even take a picture, if you didn't know, in your iPhone, if you open it in the camera mode, it'll pop up the URL with that. It's actually going to take you straight to a Power BI dashboard. Don't dig into it right now. I'm going to go through it all, but you can get it later, and I'll have this at the end. The bit.ly is cool pug man. Do you remember that? Cool pug.
Yes.
Man. Cool pug man. The reason it's so what we're going to do is I'm going to go through and just going to tell you a little bit about Columbia and set some context. I'm going to talk too about what's cool, because if you think about Power BI features and you talk about what's cool, like we all look at that through a different lens. And the lens I put on this is pretty much my own and Columbia's, but you know, everyone has their own view of it. I'm going to go through 10 of what I think are like super cool features that are coming. Some of them are coming, some that are already here. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the cool features. Not super cool, but the cool features. I'm going to talk about ways that I segmented coolness. I'm going to go through this dashboard that I built that I'm going to give to you guys as a tool for exploring all those features that are coming, and also for staying attuned to it. So I'm going to try and, one promise I make, I'm going to keep it up to date for a year. And then I'm going to talk about how to stay connected and stay aware of what's going on out there. And then we'll have some brief Q&A and discussion. So Columbia, if you guys don't know it, is right down the street here, and we have a great tagline where we connect active people with their passions, and I really believe that. Like I've seen in the company, that people orient to where their passions are, and management really supports that. So I'm not going to explain what we do, because I think most of you already know it, but we go way back with Microsoft. So that on the left is a YouTube video you can find out there of Gert putting a jacket on Bill Gates, having him tested for her. And then recently we have a press release we put out showing how we're really deepening our partnership with Microsoft. So we did a big investment in Dynamics, and along with that came a lot of Azure, and it really spiked up our Power BI usage. I'm going to show you a quick video, just give you guys a kind of an overview of Columbia.
This is Portland, Oregon, in the Pacific Northwest. This is the type of weather you can expect from Portland. This is a sunny day. This is a windy day. This is a stormy day. This is a really, really stormy day. This is Columbia Sportswear Company, where they design, build, and test products for days like that in Portland for people that enjoy mountaintops, river trips, skiing, camping, climbing, surfing, fishing, running. Anyway, this is Gert Boyle, chairman of Columbia Sportswear. Gert is commonly referred to as Ma Boyle.
Boy, I hate that Ma stuff.
One tough mother.
The tough mother? Well, that I don't mind.
Her favorite part about living in the Pacific Northwest is the weather. It's the perfect testing ground for Columbia's products. The only thing she loves more than the weather is her son, Tim. This is Tim.
He is the most handsome, incredible, intelligent person. He's my son. What the hell? What am I going to say?
Tim's a sportsman. When Gert wanted to test a product, really test it, she called Tim.
We had differences sometimes.
Gert once put Tim through a car wash. Tim was hesitant.
I voted against that.
What better person to tell you that your product is good than your mother?
Together, Tim and Gert produced and tested, and the more they tested, the more improvements and discoveries they made. If, and only if, a piece of gear passed all these tests, would Gert give it her legendary seal of approval. This was Gert's guarantee that a product was tested tough against every type of terrible, no-good, day-ruining, pain-inducing, career-ending condition the skies of the mighty Pacific Northwest will dish out. 20 years later, and Gert is still at it.
It's perfect, now make it better.
This is the command handed down by Gert. Sure, it makes life hell for Columbia employees, but it means great gear for you. To this day, when customers see Gert's iconic tested tough stamp of approval, they know they're duly equipped to stay outside, long after the featherweights have retreated indoors. So, what's next for Columbia?
I don't know.
Well, Gert certainly isn't going anywhere. In her 90s, she still gets up to go to work and keep the tested tough ethos alive at Columbia.
Yes, I do. Early to bed, early to rise, work like hell and advertise.
She was so glad to be here for this interview. Thanks, Gert.
She's pretty cool. The irony of that video is whenever it snows, our offices are empty because nobody can get to work.
Well, you guys don't do tire chains.
Yeah. So, Pops Quiz, what year was Columbia founded? And Kendra, you can't answer. Can't search the web that fast.
68?
No.
29.
Close.
1933.
Pretty close.
35.
That's close enough, yeah. 1938. Holy bad.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
1938. It's been on a really long time, which is pretty cool. Back to Power BI. So, what is cool? What makes things cool? So, growing up, I thought these guys were cool. You know, I thought Fonz was cool and John Lennon. And as I got older, that changed. My view of what's cool changed. Lance Armstrong was cool. Now, my idea of cool is a little different. There's different people that I think are cool. On the right is our new puppy we just got. He's pretty cool. But a lot of coolness started. So I actually did a little research, like what is cool? And it took me way into a rabbit hole I shouldn't have been in. And I was reading a book by Bruce Springsteen. It was his biography, and he talked about how Elvis was really like a lot of genesis of cool. He just kind of interconnected a lot of coolness in the country. And I found this research study these guys, scholars had done that showed the history of cool and kind of how it evolved throughout the years. And the way Bruce talked about Elvis in the context of that whole flow was, it was an early echo of the coming civil rights movement, and it was this new world of black and white coming together, a place of freedom where the two most culturally powerful tribes in American society find common ground, pleasure enjoying each other's presence. Elvis was a singer, a guitar player who loved black musical culture, recognized its artistry, its mastery, its power, and yearned for intimacy with it. I thought that was really cool. And what these guys found in their research is, going back to Africa, there was this concept of tutu, which came from this tribe, the Yoruba in Africa. And that was like where cool came from. And it's like Elvis kind of ushered it into the US and it exploded. What was also kind of funny was there was an Italian element of coolness. These were court folks in the royal courts who were like really cool. They had this like aura, and I would never try and pronounce that despite the fact that I'm 50% Italian. But I'm pretty sure that this carried forward to be Marco. Alberto.
We agree.
So Microsoft BI is pretty cool. And Microsoft was founded back in the 70s. You guys all know that. we had Excel for a long period of time. That was about as BI as Microsoft got. We got SQL Server, and then we got the analysis services and reporting stuff. A lot of us have lived through. And then those Power add-ins came in, and we saw the early rumblings of what ultimately became Power BI. And then Azure, showed up. And now it's basically been this huge hockey stick up of an explosion of information, technology, innovation. We can't keep up with it. I don't know about you, but it's hard to keep up with. So in the release notes that have come out, they tend to be semesterly. There were 134 features just in the last 2 release notes. That's April, which is kind of the now one, and the October. And so what I did is I parsed through all those, and I segmented them by temperature, like how cool are they? Super cool, chilly, and just kind of room temperature. I also categorized them according to kind of what the value, like what do we get out of those features? And again, this is through my lens, so it might be different lenses, but I also organized it by function. Like what is just the function, the technical functionality it delivers, like accessibility, for example, or the administration features and functions. So I'm going to go through 10 of what I think are super cool features. Some of these you guys already know, and some maybe you've never heard of. In the bottom left, I'm going to show you like when is it coming. Is it here now, or is it coming in a certain point in time? The first one is data set sharing, and this is not a countdown to the best. I really think this is probably one of the best features that's coming. So right now we have workspaces, and if you publish a PBIX into a workspace, you get a data set in there and it's trapped, and it can't go anywhere else. But with data set sharing, what I'm hoping and praying for is that it's going to allow us to start doing reporting across workspaces, which is pretty darn powerful. The PDF that you can get linked to from the dashboard has the documentation that goes into this. As a bonus, as part of this feature, there's also a certification flag. And what it looks like is this. So it's called an endorsement. And this is really important for big companies. If you look at the fabric, kind of the mesh of our Power BI environment, it gets to be chaos pretty quickly because there's so many different groups doing so many different things. So this endorsement feature, I think, is going to be a really great way to overlay processes that separate the wheat from the chaff, so that you can say, well, these data sets and these reports are the certified ones, or the ones that we should trust. And what we're doing at Columbia is we're building out a data catalog in a platform called Calibra that has workflows built into it. So we can start to orchestrate the intersection points of metadata, things like a list of reports and workspace and data sets, with people who play roles like data stewards and data owners, people who can kind of bless content and say, yes, it's approved. It's a lot harder than that, but I think just having the ability to flag content in Power BI and say, this is trustable or not trustable is really important. So I'm super excited about this feature. Our data governance team is super excited about this feature. And I think it, combined with the sharing of data sets across workspaces, is really cool.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
So specifically, why are you excited about hopping across workspaces? So if you sort of think of workspace being kind of like, maybe I get finance group a particular workspace and have, and then I have maybe the inventory management group. For you, what is the huge advantage of crossing that, and do you run into security issues?
Like one example is, we were just meeting with our DTC team recently, our direct-to-consumer team, and they have multiple workspaces they've already spun up, and they want to be kind of having these workspaces play together with different audiences. And right now, if you want to try and share content across those, you have to basically republish your PBIX in 3 or 4 workspaces, and if they make a change, you have to do that again. So the idea that they can publish into one, like a data workspace, and then have reports in other workspaces that intersect with that data set. This is something that existed in Tableau for a while. We've had it in the past. So it's Power BI kind of catching up in that space, and it also allows IT to provision data, or anyone to provision data and share it out with the whole company. So it just creates more like a mesh that's more
and you're not using
interactive.
workspaces for security so much. That's
We are.
not, say you are?
Well, just for the pro users. But the apps that get published, we target different audiences as well.
A thought about that is, it seems like we're on a path to where Power BI as a data modeling technology is really starting to displace analysis services.
Yeah.
And you can't do that when everybody has to have a copy of their model,
Right.
a different copy of the model.
Right.
And this, I think, is moving in the direction of centralizing larger, more holistic models, more
Yeah.
capable models.
Yeah, we've been having a lot of discussion about that and what the balance is between, you know, when can you take a huge model and put it in Power BI versus when is that too expensive? And analysis services really is the fit. Excuse me. Next feature. So linked entities. You guys are probably thinking, what the heck is a linked entity? As a solution, hey Ron, can I get some water? As a solution for remembering these, if you've been in Power Query and you generate a query and you right click and you say reference, think of it like that. It's basically a reference to another query. Oh, thanks so much. What's very cool about this is that if you run a data flow and it has a reference to something else, it's intelligent about the way that it cascades all the references. You can have a whole, like a flow of data flows between each other, and just by refreshing one, it'll kind of handle that reference automatically and know kind of. Keep in mind, a data flow is a step of transformations, just like in Power Query that you build. It's just a web version of it. It's basically the same thing. What's awesome about this is you can now deploy your data flows across workspaces, and you can distribute subsets of data that are referenced by using this feature. So let's say you have a workspace, and you can call it kind of your everybody gets it data flow. It's the full data set, but then you've got maybe a sales office that only gets the Canada version or the Asian version. You can generate a data flow that's linked, and you can put it into that other workspace that refers back to another data flow. So it's a way of, again, creating this mesh throughout an organization where data flows are a substrate. They're underneath everything we've already been doing with Power BI. And they are very scalable, and they're getting more scalable. And by scalable, I mean they're stored in a data lake, so they're different than a data set. If you look for this in the service, you'll see when you add an entity, you can say add linked entities. That's the process you go through to go and essentially create a reference in the same way you do in Power Query.
Now, Chris, linked entities, that's a premium feature though, right?
I believe so. I believe so, but I think some of the stuff's coming to Pro.
Linked, or I mean, data flows, obviously you can play with, linked entities is a premium feature.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't parse which ones are premium, not premium, but that would be a good addition to this, I think.
It says right there.
It does reflect.
Yeah, I mean across the whole presentation. Okay, so again, documentation link here if you want to read more about that feature. So third, Python. How many people use Python actively? Okay, cool. We got some use. In the past, if you were going to use transformations or data science libraries in Python, you had to do it outside of Power BI. There was no way to kind of glue it together tightly. So that means you have data transforming and then landing and then Power BI connecting to that. But now, actually, in desktop right now, you can use Python in two places. You can go into Power Query and you can add steps that reference the Python libraries and do all sorts of processing within Power Query. So as part of the data transformation. And you can also, in visualizations, use libraries to add all sorts of visuals that Power BI doesn't do. So for developers who are familiar with Python, they're super excited about this. And I think for people who have not tinkered with Python, I would look at this as sort of an ecosystem attachment. You've got the Power BI world. Now we're bolting on a very big ecosystem of Python that gives a lot of flexibility. So if you're doing transformation, just think that's always an option out there. You can dip in and pull some open source Python code and extend what you do. And particular visuals, maybe there's just a visual that Power BI can't do it, custom visuals don't exist for it, and you can look into some Python visuals that might just be a few lines of code to drop into Power BI. And so how that looks, for example, is here. So it's an example of a small multiples, which Power BI is a bit weak at, and then another visual. The catch on this is that they only support a certain number of packages. So in the documentation, Microsoft lists those out. But from what I've been seeing with R, so they've been doing the same kind of thing with R in the past. They've been adding more libraries over time and packages. So my understanding is that this is coming in April to the service, but you can do it in desktop right now. So it basically means you can build it and then publish it, and then it'll automatically reschedule. All right, next super cool feature is, I think, drill through to another report. We can't do this right now. You're in the realm of well, you have a PBIX and you can interlink report pages, and you can do drill through there, and you can create additional reports off of data sets in workspaces, but you can't have users bounce between reports. And I think this is going to open up a lot of possibilities beyond just Power BI as well. And the reason for that is they mentioned that they're going to handle URL parameters. And URL parameters really are great if you're trying to glue together other systems with each other. So let's say, for example, we have another tool like the SAP BI tools, and there's a report there that we don't want to rebuild in Power BI. We just want to bounce them from this report over to that one. But my hope is, got a question?
No,
okay.
Finish it up.
But my hope is that with these URL parameters, we'll be able to glue together BI tools, and Power BI will become more open in terms of web navigation in and out, which could be pretty awesome.
Yeah, with the first #1 feature coming through, would the drill through between reports allow to jump between workspaces as well, or?
I don't know. I mean, if you read the documentation, it's kind of vague.
Okay.
This one is.
Or just within the same workspace?
Yeah, I would guess it's going to be URL based. You know, it's probably going to be wherever you want to go,
Sure.
Assuming you have permission. So there's probably going to be some responsibility for when you do it, making sure your users also can get to that other thing. Probably, that's my guess.
With a system like Dynamics CRM, could you have a link in a report that would pop up the CRM record through the URL?
How do we do that?
Pop up in Dynamics or in Power BI?
On Power BI, looking at a report and references a CRM record, you can maybe have a hot link in that.
You can already do that.
Yeah.
You can already do that?
Sure, you can formulate a URL.
Yeah, I'll show you a dashboard later where I'm doing that, and I can show how that behaves. The example of that. Yeah.
When you say the schema of the reports must match, can you elaborate on that?
I can't, because that's all they said in the documentation. So, go ahead, you want to answer, Brian?
I was going to say one limitation might be, a consideration like around RLS, rule of security.
Yeah, I would guess it breaks. It just sort of like RLS doesn't pass through. That's my guess. But I think what that comment means in the documentation is that you can't push a CRM customer ID to a report by URL that doesn't have that in it. So I think they're just trying to say that you can't do drill across reports if that other report doesn't support that variable.
Okay, well, that would make sense.
Yeah, I'm not speaking
Yeah,
for
you need a
Microsoft.
common field in
Yes.
both reports to jump across, right?
That's my guess. I don't want to,
So in doing this with reporting services, which will receive a query string in the URL,
yeah.
We can build a measure in Power BI that would pass all of the necessary parameter information.
Yeah.
But the authentication just happens because the same user happens to be logged in. So
Right.
the user already has to be authenticated or will be prompted to authenticate.
Yeah.
But that's a completely different matter.
And I think within Power BI, it's not going to be URL based as much. I think there's going to be a bit more.
True.
You know, it's going to pass the filter context without you having to put it through URLs.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
based on the documentation. That's the sense I got. So this is coming again in April. They're doing a good job being kind of quiet about this one. I scanned the internet and couldn't find much more detail than what I did, but I'm excited about it. Next one, so automated ML, so binary and multi-class classification models. So in the past, if you wanted to do advanced analytics in Power BI, you had to jump into Python or R or some other tools and generate a data set. With R, for a while, you've been able to do it in Power BI. Or, I love Brian's term, the lonely lollipop.
Don't forget it.
Every training class he does, he calls it that, and I think it's a great name. That lonely lollipop on the right is sort of an empty pane that we all wish had more analytics in it. It's kind of a placeholder for future things coming, I think. But after, so what this is, and I'd love to hear, Emmett, you were at the Gartner thing, I think they showed some of this, I'd love to get your feedback on it, but I sense it's a guided wizard for advanced analytics, and tools like this have been around for a while. They've been doing this for a while. KXEN is a tool I used years ago that kind of guided you through advanced analytics. Ignore that last bullet, it's not correct, but this is how it looks. So you're in Power Query. My understanding is this happens in Power Query. And based on the background image, it looks like it's Power Query online. It's not desktop.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So you go through a wizard. You know, you say choose the model, select the data, customize the inputs, and then you name and train the model. It's kind of, I sense what this is it's hitting a sweet spot between, you know, this is not a data scientist tool. This is like a citizen data scientist tool. It guides people to start learning about these concepts and having ways to apply them without them falling into pitfalls. So this is pretty darn cool. Like, I think
that was
this is
very
gonna,
much the sense I had too, because as soon as Justine and Amir were done with their presentation, they had a bunch of data science folks who were like, can I edit this? And they're like, no. Static key value, it's a static this, and they're like, you know, and it's very much exactly my same read was the casual, if somebody's curious about it and seeing what's out there, are the possible versus I don't think your data science folks are going to use this.
Yeah, we don't have many data science. I think we'll get a lot of use out of this.
No.
So this is, for example, the KXEN one I mentioned years ago. SAP bought it, and this is kind of how it looked. You go through a process of selecting kind of the create a model, and it guides you through step by step. So that's the old view of it. Next one, new filter experience. I'm a little biased on this one because we had Microsoft come and sit with us and like gather a lot of feedback, but I think there's more to this than what we see. I think it's more valuable than we think. So in the past, you were pretty constrained on how much filterability you could do while you're interacting with the dashboard. But after, basically now, because most of this is here, end users can do a lot of filtering, and I don't think people play with this too much. You open that filter pane while you're viewing a report, you can tweak a lot of filters. You can do a lot of essentially ad hoc reporting. And what's kind of neat is in desktop as a developer, you can customize the pane, you can customize the look and feel of the cards, they call them, each of the things you're filtering. So you kind of make it look like your dashboard, which adds a nice aesthetic appeal. But you also can decide what filters people can change and not change. There's a little lock, and if you click it, it locks it. They can't change that filter. If for some reason you just, for security reasons or some other reason you don't want them to be able to modify that filter, you can control it. And you also can hide it. There's a little eye icon in every card. So you hide it, and that filter now doesn't even show up. They can't know it's there. So some of the stuff is still coming on this one. It sounds like it's coming in May. So I would say look for this one to keep evolving a bit more. But what's very cool about this is we always have a lot of discussion about, okay, there's pro users. We spend money every month to keep those pro users going. How many people need a pro license? And I think the more we train people who are non-pro around a company, the more you can eliminate the need for them to go in and do ad hoc reporting. So this filter experience, plus natural language. Going in and doing natural language search and doing essentially ad hoc. That's not pro. As far as I know, it doesn't require pro. So it's a great way to deflect cost as a company if you're someone who's mixing pro and premium and free licensing.
Well, for developers, one of the benefits I would add to that list is you get a whole bunch of screen real estate freed up when you start using that filter pane. It just makes your report surface just much tidier.
Oh yeah.
This is how I define design reports now, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so much better. It's great.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the reordering and sorting was coming. That's huge, because then you can kind of structure your thing through a hierarchy, which you can't do now. It's all alphabetical, and that's a little more difficult.
Yeah, it's when I was playing with it too. I think it also it's sometimes it's based on the order you put it in. So if you want to have something at the top, you have to kind of remove them all and re-add again. It's sort of a pain in the neck.
On the desktop, but then when I published it to the online, it seemed everything was alphabetical.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that.
That's what I've seen.
Okay.
The other thing that's super cool about this, it's kind of almost a hidden feature, is now every single tile has a little icon in the top right. It's a little filter icon.
Yep.
When you hover over it, it'll tell you what filters are being applied to that tile. So I get asked a billion trillion times, to add a measure like that. And you could do it, but it's usually 20 minutes worth of work, and it's still not perfect. It's just done. It works great.
Yeah. It's huge. And this is how it looks. So the filter pane. So to get to this also, when you're in desktop, just click on the white space around the page, and then go to the paint roller, and then you're going to see these new so filter cards and filter pane are going to be in there, and those are where you kind of design out what you're publishing.
Hey, I got a question for you. I haven't figured this out, but see on the filter page where you have the name, but then you have the number to the right of that, and your any idea what that is?
That's a number of values in that.
Well, why would they put that in there?
So you know the cardinality. You know how much data you're going to get.
It kind of gives you at a glance the impact of how much data you're filtering out.
Okay. It's the same thing that the old filters do as well. Okay.
Also useful for validation. So it's a quick check if you're comparing two systems, okay, that returns 50 rows.
Okay.
Am I getting 50 rows here? So that's a quick check, spot check.
Maybe you don't have to then go and look at the report. You get the answer right there.
Okay.
Okay. That's all covering there. And this is how, for example, that would look coming out. So that pane on the web is customized, and now it's there. And when you select the visual, it tells you what's the filters on that visual and what's on the pages. It kind of it's interactive, and it changes as you select things. This is that lock I was talking about. So you hover over, it says filter is locked. You can't change it. All right, next super cool feature, expression-based formatting. So I understand this is coming in April also, and in the past you were just constrained. You can only do certain amounts of formatting of charts and content and dashboard. Well, they're kind of gluing in DAX to the formatting pane more now. So an example of how you might use this, you could have a KPI where the color of it changes as you get closer to a goal, for example. Or a line chart might change style in some way based upon a metric. And then titles. Let's say you want to have a visual and a title change based upon other things you select.
This is going to be a game changer. This is huge.
And this is how it's going to look. So you're going to have you're going to have DAX in the formatting. It reminds me a bit of the conditional formatting UI where you put that stuff in.
It's like we do in reporting services all over the place.
Yeah. Okay, next super cool feature. I'm not a big fan of paginated reports. Somehow in my whole career I avoided learning reporting services, and I was hoping I could just keep sailing and never have to really learn it.
Shame on you, Chris.
I was using other BI tools at the time.
You can run, but you can't hide.
And I was playing with it recently, and I was kind of bummed. We're using Azure SQL Data Warehouse. It didn't support Azure SQL Data Warehouse, surprisingly, but it supported SQL Server. And it doesn't support Azure Analysis Services. It was just sort of baffling that this this addition in Power BI didn't support the things we were using. It supported more kind of like some of the legacy sources. And what's awesome about this now is they're going to have Power BI dataset support. So all those datasets that we're now sharing across workspaces, we're going to be able to do reporting services off of datasets. That's pretty darn awesome. The reason that's awesome is because paginated reports, which are the same thing as SSRS, if you hear reporting services, think paginated reports, just a new name on it in Power BI. You're going to be able to blend paginated reports in apps. So in apps, you publish content, you have dashboards, visuals, and everything. It has a certain style to it. But let's say someone wants to flip over and have sort of this pixel-perfect tabular report that runs on for 10 pages. Power BI is not very good for that. So to be able to blend those sort of styles of reporting all in apps together off of the same data sets, that's pretty cool. And subscriptions, yeah.
Oh, just wondering, is it going to be limited just to premium?
I don't know, Ron, you know?
Yes. Going to
No,
stay premium
well,
only?
what I read is that it, to display paginated reports in the Power BI service, that is a premium feature. Maybe that'll change.
The feedback on that point alone has been loud and clear.
Yes.
That's just not going to be tolerated in the industry, but that is the way it is right now.
So because it's supported in Premium, does that mean it will also be supported in Power BI Report Server?
Usually Report Server kind of lags behind, but Report Server also has reporting services already in it, so I don't know the fate of that. It's a good question.
Well, Report Server is what it is. You have paginated reports and Power BI reports.
Right.
The paradigm is different and will remain different because it literally is a stopgap.
Yeah.
But we're already there, and we have paginated reports because it literally is SQL Server reporting service.
Right. That's where it came from.
Yep.
And the piece I'm excited about with this in particular is subscriptions. And part of the reason is we have audiences who we want to target with emails, showing, okay, here's a newsletter essentially, your monthly things you need to fix. And it's great for targeting management who you want to drive behavior on improving data quality or improving processes. Right now, if you try and do that in Power BI, it's a mess. You get basically this PNG image that's too hard to read, and you basically have to click it, and then you go to the report, which is not too bad, but it's nice to just get the sort of almost like an email where the analytics are kind of embedded in. That's what I'm hoping we'll be able to do with these subscriptions once we have that paginated capability.
Chris,
And,
one point you mentioned that reporting services will be able to access those data sets.
Yeah.
That's kind of the Microsoft opening up access to data sets to all reporting tools.
Mm-hmm.
What is it called? It's XML or
XML endpoint.
That any of your commercial grade reporting tools will be able to access those Power BI data sets now.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Tableau on Power BI data set.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate or happen to know whether the data set support includes the common data model components of master data lake storage?
Common data model is a conceptual. It's a model.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually go on GitHub and download the model. And
Right, all the JSON, for example.
Yeah, and so I'm seeing that CDM is being kind of baked into different solutions. So you can do common data service for applications has CDM, has the schema built into it for Power Apps and for Dynamics, I think too. And so it's the model that's being kind of burned into the technology. And in the Power BI space, CDM shows up as within data flows. So whenever you map a standard entity in data flow, a standard entity is a CDM entity. So for paginated reports, it's separate. But you were asking about data sets and whether the relationship with CDM, is that right?
Exactly.
Okay, so data sets, no. I think they're going to stay kind of separate and kind of like a higher level up. but data flows are where the CDM intersection is. So, and the reason Microsoft wants us to do that, so when you start using data flows in the future, and you map to a standard entity. So let's say I'm gathering some customer data through Power Query, through these sources, and I'm landing it into data flows. The standard entity that I'm applying to it is just a schema. It's just a standardized schema. It's the customer entity. So I'm saying, well, here's my customer name, phone number, address, and it's being landed in Azure Data Lake. But what happens is third-party vendors now can build solutions off that schema, and you can deploy those solutions, and they can know that schema exists and interconnect with that data. That's the whole point. It's kind of like a common language of data structure between.
I'm just wondering, perhaps, for example, if the paginated reports might also be able to consume or interact with the CDM as well.
Well, if they can go, so the answer is yes, because paginated report will be able to connect to a data set. A data set loads off of data flows, and the data flows, if they're standard entities, are following CDM.
Starts to integrate it that way.
Yeah. So the answer is yes. Yeah. Okay. Next one. Performance analyzer for reports. We were talking about this a lot recently, and Rachel was training us on DAX Studio. We were all newbies on that. Yeah. And so I think what this is going to transition to is we're going to go from DAX Studio and prayers to this new report analysis pane and DAX Studio and prayers. But we have this in Tableau also. I hope I don't sound too whiny when I say that, but we had the ability to basically do performance breakdown in Tableau Desktop and on server. You just kind of hit flag and it shows you all the details. That's pretty much how this looks in Power BI. So you've got the result, so it shows the what I believe is kind of like the steps in the processing of the page. I'm guessing this is the queries. So maybe each one is essentially a visual, and it'll spin as it's going. It'll tell you how many milliseconds of each thing, and you start and stop it, kind of like you do in Chrome when you're doing performance testing. And what's exciting here too is on the right there's a best practices tab. That's all I know about that, is that there's a best practices. So I hope there's good stuff in there, because I think we all could use some tips and some automation around that.
What's a link to the Italian side? There was, so in the discussions that I have heard about this, there is a lot of talk about that not necessarily being the end-all be-all, that you may be able to export the results to a standard format that then you could consume in your own reports and take it even a step further.
Okay, interesting.
It's an idea. I don't know.
Interesting.
No promises.
Yeah. Yeah, we're using a Power BI Power BI Premium Capacity Metrics app. Again, I'm sorry for the premium stuff, but it's another lens at this, so we can see across the organization. What are the slowest queries? What are the slowest data set refreshes by workspace? We can see what the slowest data flows are, paginated reports. So I think Microsoft's putting a lot of effort into all these diagnostics and finding ways where they can deliver this stuff without us asking for a million things from them. So it's going to be like APIs and ways of doing ad hoc reporting. And I don't know, I didn't include it in this presentation, but if you guys haven't noticed in Power BI, if you're part of a workspace in the service and you go and you create a Power BI data set, you create a Power BI report off of a data set that's in the service, well, there's a screen that pops up and it shows you, okay, here's your list of workspaces. And then you pick the data sets. Well, there's 2 new data sets in every workspace that Microsoft has added. One is for reports, one is for dashboards. And basically what it is, it's usage metrics. It's pre-built models for usage metrics. So you can build your own usage reports for your workspace in an ad hoc way. It's pretty cool. So I think they're going to do more of that, where maybe in the future we'll be able to see what's the slowest report in our workspace, or what's my slowest report I've ever built. Okay, next one: enhanced email subscriptions. I was in a meeting last week, and I was raving about subscriptions and how great they are, and my buddy Ryan, who he's not here tonight, is he? Whispered over to me, he's like, "It doesn't work with analysis services." I was like, "What?" Right now in Power BI, if you try and do subscriptions with analysis services under certain circumstances, it just gives you an error and it says no, you can't do it. So they're improving email subscriptions overall. Again, like I mentioned before, that just sends a PNG image out in the email, and also the emails go out when the refresh happens, which is kind of clunky, because if you want to get executives their email 8 a.m. and it refreshes at 11 p.m., it's not that big a deal, but I think there's some frequency challenges too. Maybe you just want it going out once a day email subscription, but it's refreshing periodically throughout the day.
I just seem to remember something about trying that, and it only worked if you were like a pro user or something like that. So if it's a non-consumer, so let's say you're not a non-pro user, you're not going to get that email. But I might be wrong on what I'm remembering.
You can subscribe other people now so a pro user can go in and schedule a subscription for someone else to receive it. You can target distribution lists and things like that. So you can now have it independent from data refreshes. But paginated reports can go into the email subscriptions. This is kind of an interlink between the paginated reports I was showing you before and the actual Power BI subscription functionality. And what's awesome too is you could have a filtered result targeting a specific audience. That's pretty cool. So let's say you have your North American sales and you want to filter that particular report and blast it to them every Monday morning. You somehow in the future, in April, we're going to see how that pans out.
April's going to be a big month.
It is. There's so much in April. And so what I'm wondering too is, in the documentation I saw that custom visuals are not supported in certain subscriptions. I don't know if that's just outdated documentation or not, but okay. So those were the 10 super cool things. I'm going to jump into this dashboard that I'm giving to you guys. And what I did is I took the release notes pages and I used a web connector, actually in Excel rather than Power BI, to just scrape those tables and get a nice clean data set of all of those features. And then I bolted on extra data in Excel, this categorization, and I did it in a way so it doesn't break when I refresh or they do new release notes in the future. And I have this dashboard I'm going to walk you guys through. Nice.
Freebies!
Freebies, yeah.
Maybe we'll get this embedded on Plugshare.
Yeah. All right.
What was your Bitly link again? Is Cool Pug Man?
Cool Pug Man.
Cool Pug Man.
All right. So this is my personal tenant. It's not Columbia. So all this stuff you guys can do. I'm happy to share this PBIX if you guys want it. So the way it starts here is you kind of set your filters. What do you want to view, and then jump into it. And it's got all the features are here, and they're organized by those temperatures that I gave. So the ones, at least a bunch of the ones we just went through are the super cool ones, and the cool are the sort of the second-rate ones that we went through. So, or we didn't go through in detail. But what I did is I went through a lot of these, and I put in on each feature I put kind of my interpretation, like what is that feature? What's this one-line summary of what that feature is? And then I put a little recommendation. So some of this is my own recommendations back to myself of what I need to do with all these things. But maybe it'll be useful for you guys as you go through.
That's great.
Yeah, it's just fun. And so this is the view by coolness. So you can see there's a lot of data wrangling features that, well, actually, sorry, that was the super cool ones. Yeah, the analytic consumption. So that's the end users coming into the service. that seems to be where a lot of the innovation from Microsoft is coming from. And that and kind of the fundamentals. So the architecture, they're doing a lot of performance improvements, a lot of scalability. There's a lot of visualization updates. And this is showing also past and future. So if I jump back, I can go to just, not that, let me just say reset filters. I'm just going to do the future. So these are the ones that are coming, basically coming in the next few months. If you click time up here, it'll jump you over to a different view that shows it over time. You can see it sort of trails off because we don't have as much into the future, but what I expect is going to happen is that the Business Application Summit in Atlanta hits in June, and that's probably when the next release notes are going to come out with a whole slew of stuff looking into the future. So when that happens, I'm gonna rerun this and bolt on some of the extra pages to pull that data in and fill up this dashboard. So this view kind of shows what's coming up in the future. You know, if you want to drill into particular features, like here's APIs and see, okay, there's a schedule refresh API, themes API. So this is available for you guys to play with. I'm not going to spend too much more time going through it. If you want to search for a particular thing on the bottom left here, I forget which custom visual this is, but if I type paginated here, I'll get just the paginated report features.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
it was really cool, Chris.
Yeah, if you're like me and you were rummaging through that website, it's a bit overwhelming when you're trying to jump between this release note, that release note. So this kind of lets you see it at a higher level.
So you have like the previous release notes as well as the most recent.
Yeah, I didn't go back as far as the oldest one, but the
Just
last
one
two.
back.
Yeah. And for any one of these features, and this is that comment we were talking about URLs. If you click this URL here, it'll jump you right out to that specific document.
You gotta get a guy in the cube shout out on this one.
And I'm pretty happy with this trick. So this is something to use in the future. I did not want to go through and paste every URL. It would have just driven me crazy. So what I did is, as I was creating this presentation and as I was parsing through all those things, I used the dashboard to update the Excel file. So it was kind of a chicken and egg thing. But whenever I found, so basically what I did is I created a URL here. Let me go back. So if you hover over this URL, I think it'll show, no, it's the tooltip. Basically, it's a Google URL. And what I'm doing is I'm passing in the feature name, and I'm passing in just the month name of the release notes, and then I'm passing a Google parameter that's site : So basically, I'm targeting Google to just search within a certain URL space. And I'm adding another query string parameter that is, I feel lucky. So it just asks Google what it is, and it gives the top result and takes you right to it. And it's worked like 98% of the time. But for the one, that 2%, I just added a little logic in the M code that says, if I put a URL in, just use that and take you directly to that URL. So it's pretty clean.
I think he deserves.
Okay, so that's most of what I had. Again, CoolPugman, if you want to download so this is that link right to the dashboard, if you want to grab it one last time. And lastly, I'll flip this back if you want to do it in a second. Okay.
It'll be on the channel as well.
Yeah.
So, with the tag.
Lastly, how do you stay connected to this information? So this is kind of the secrets behind like how I harvested some of this stuff. The release notes, obviously, number 2 is critical. Just staying attuned to those release notes is really important. But the Power BI blog also is really good with new stuff. When you do that, don't just read the blog post, look at the comments. The Microsoft leaders actually answer Q&A and they reveal a lot of stuff in the comments. I feel like it's like kind of a treasure hunt to some extent, but The ideas forum, you guys all know, Microsoft deflects us to put ideas in. Well, there's a great way to look in the ideas forum to see the future. You can go and filter the statuses to planned, coming soon, building, whatever. There's a couple statuses that look into the future that are not even in the release notes. So you can actually see what's coming through that, which is pretty cool. And then befriend the product teams. They're swamped with people trying to get to them, but if you can find a way to give them value, the relationships can be really, really helpful. And Ignite is the best place I've seen to befriend the product teams. They are at the booths in the Ignite kind of open space, and you can just go up and meet them and get, build relationships and get to know them, which is awesome.
Sign autographs.
Yeah.
I don't know what the actual, the actual number is. Paul, you might know this, but it's not a huge product team. We're probably talking
400.
That's not huge.
I mean, counting all the developers.
That's development.
Yeah.
So there's 400 developers? I thought it was less than that.
That was the last number I heard.
Okay.
Cool. All right, well, thanks, Chris.
Any questions?
Oh, that's